Welcome to Front Row Geeks.
Recording.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Oh, man, I thought I was going to make everyone feel bad about being in awkward silence. It didn't work. Y'all are too good for this. Or you were too worried about my audio issues again.
Yeah.
Okay,
More
that's
mostly waiting for you to start prompting the topics.
I thought you were going to, question the silence. That's why. I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Eddie, Baron 5X, Asher, MPX joining. Let's go. Let's dive into this.
Microsoft helps GameStop. I haven't heard of this story.
You had not? Okay, so I learned about this yesterday. And maybe y'all can help me kind of speculate what is kind of going on here other than what I'm about to tell you.
Well, the
Microsoft
obvious, they need a store to sell their Xboxes, so...
Right. And keep that in mind. Because the deal that was made is that Microsoft, in partnership with GameStop on whatever you want to call this, has told GameStop that any Xbox you sell, digital or hardware, anytime a digital purchase occurs on that machine that they have sold from their store, they will get a cut. And
Interesting.
yeah, so far for sure guaranteed games, likely all media and all purchases made on digital purchases made are going to automatically go to GameStop if they sell the hardware. So I'm assuming they're doing some hardware tracking, I don't know what you do, serial, MAC address, whatever you want to call it.
Most likely serial number.
Yeah. So anytime that physical box makes a digital purchase, GameStop gets a cut. Now, for me, I think automatically GameStop obviously is going to be rewarded for this in this deal. They needed new revenue. It was a worry that digital was going to take over and cut GameStop's revenue even further.
Well,
But
it
this
would
is sort of
because they no longer have access to the one thing that they have always had, resale.
So this deal is a lifesaver for GameStop with Microsoft, which sort of begs the questions: what does Microsoft get out of this?
I feel like Microsoft, it's possible, and I do mean possible, that if somebody turns in an Xbox One console, GameStop scans it, they get so essentially it's one of those weird things where it's kind of a two-way street where it's any hardware sold from GameStop, GameStop will still get a cut, but Microsoft still get ideas of traffic of used console, which means that they have more statistics to base things on.
Do you think that data was unavailable to him before? I mean, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I guess I would have assumed they've had that data. They can ask for that data.
No, they don't. They literally, GameStop does not track at least used game sales for other companies. And as far as I know, most other companies, when asked, GameStop did not provide it to them, but didn't specify the reason.
Okay, that's incredibly interesting. I think you might have something I think there might be more to it than that, but that is definitely an interesting angle.
Yeah, it's just an idea that popped in my head is that that's the one thing that most game companies wanted was a way to track
Their resale
the resale numbers to see how many people actually return something. Sorry, I'm being a little herby, but other factors would be tracking information on sales of potential of older games that may have a more cult following that they could capitalize on.
Okay, so data. There's new data revenues, and we know in 2020 how important
Well, there's
data
not
is.
only that, but also how many games get returned in the first week and get resold again, or end up just simply taking up space in their stock, essentially.
Now, and I guess the only thing is that that's an assumption that GameStop is willing to give them that information off of that. I mean, I guess they would. Why wouldn't they?
Oh.
I guess there's still questions about that, but I think it's a very good idea. That's an excellent idea.
Yeah. The other factor, at least this one is probably what most people are already saying, this is probably what it is the factor that, GameStop gets a good chunk, but potentially Microsoft has a access to essentially participate as part of the stockholder group.
Maybe, although, man, that seems like a risky thing to do. I mean, GameStop stock did jump as a result of this announcement. So I mean, it's definitely helping a little bit, but
But no, it's the factor like you have a big company like Microsoft probably putting input on like here's how how you should actively like sell items been doing lately.
I mean, maybe, but you would think GameStop is the expert in that, not Microsoft.
Oh no, they've made some really bad choices. GameStop has made some bad purchases.
I mean, yes, but they're still a existing, very experienced retailer. Microsoft doesn't have that under their belt. There are many
No, they do.
things retailers there is not, and those Microsoft scores don't really count yet.
Are you sure? Because Microsoft has been a retailer for longer than GameStop.
It's
what?
also a question of market.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft probably has business like, office supplies and things like that versus more entertainment-driven style GameStop essentially is a part of.
Yeah, but B2B
So-
is very different from B2C. Like they could be, they're very different styles. I mean,
But-
there might be something to that. Like there's GameStop
think
having more
there's-
direct access to Microsoft's people in that regard might mean something. But
But Eddie, you did forget about the Microsoft stores that were kind of across the country for a good chunk of time there, right?
no, I mean I'm aware of their existence, but I mean,
Well,
as far as like
technically they don't
retail,
exist.
yeah, though I don't know. That's not in the industry of retail. Microsoft Store is not exactly a hard hitting resume bump like compared to GameStop. Like GameStop
Yeah.
is a huge retailer.
But the one thing I heard about the Microsoft stores were they were very well managed. Like, yeah, you don't expect to see a lot of foot traffic in them, kind of unlike an Apple's. But from what I heard, like the Microsoft stores were better managed and stock was better accounted for at the stores from the back end before like they shut them all down. Actually, they did explain the reason why they just shut down the Microsoft stores.
Probably because they weren't cost effective, unlike
Yeah.
say Apple stores.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were no Apple stores, and I think that's just the long and short of it. Apple turned their stores into basically a cool place to hang out, and I don't think Microsoft ever figured out how to do that.
Well,
Mhm.
I think it's just simply the lifestyle marketing sort of push that Apple has done with their products that have solidified their place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Versus
And I guess,
Microsoft. Mhm.
I guess, and speaking of another benefit to Microsoft, the probably the most obvious one is that I think GameStop. Well, yeah. Oh shoot, what am I forgetting? I almost said GameSpot. That's what just tripped me up for a second there. GameStop, I think, even if they say otherwise, is going to lean towards selling Xboxes because at this point, PlayStation doesn't have that deal with them. It might be a good idea to mirror this, keep it even, but until then, it seems like GameStop would be rewarded for pushing the sales of Xboxes over PlayStation.
Yeah.
So that might be good for them in the short term, or the long term if PlayStation really decides not to mirror this action, this strategy, tactic, whatever you want to call it. Depends on what they do.
Business deal.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think some of the stuff you're talking about are some good thoughts. I'm sure within a couple of weeks they might even tell us a little more clearly what the idea is that Microsoft thinks you're getting out of this. But in the meantime, I think that's some good thoughts. Okay. The next thing I was thinking about, which honestly I only saw a few things of it, so I'm curious to see if you all saw any more than I did. The new PS5 UI.
I skipped it.
I heard about it being revealed, but I haven't really seen any screenshots personally.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I dug into it a little bit too, just out of curiosity, but because I don't think none of us are getting a PlayStation 5 at launch. It's going to be a while before any of us here will have that PlayStation 5, so I guess it just wasn't that curious, especially because by the time we get one, they'll probably have changed something drastically by then. That being said, there's a lot of
that looks
there are a lot of
It looks
mixed reviews. No, sorry, I was just going to say there's mixed reviews about it. Mixed feelings, maybe is a better phrase.
Yeah, I want to say like they're trying to merge PS4 and the PS3 UI because like I still hear people lament the factor that they missed the PS3's UI because it was just so simple. But at the same time, it's like the PS3's UI was still kind of a clusterfuck.
It was. I thought the PS4 UI was an improvement over what PS3 was doing personally.
The PS4's UI is still kind of a clusterfuck, but in a different fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I kind of liked the PS3s, but it was still kind of like you're going to be going down a list for a far long time. Whereas the
Yeah.
PS4s, I feel sometimes it sticks stuff where in the weirdest places.
Yeah.
So I mean, like it's one of those like you get used to it, and then it's like okay, I can navigate this, but oof, yeah. Looking at it, it's like I feel like they're trying to go for like a minimalist approach, but I can start to see where like some old PS4 clusterfuckery is got to start coming in. Where it's like, where did you hide it this time, PlayStation?
Some of the universal positives that I've heard about this new UI, and maybe even just the PS5 interface as a whole, is what they're doing with chat and groups and screen sharing and stuff like that. They really look like they're really streamlined that. They're making it easier for people to uninvasively join groups, join
Mhm.
chat groups, share share my screen with you while I play, and you can watch what I'm doing at the same time that you're playing your game. Like a lot of that, a lot of communication and a lot of networking was done in that, and that seems like that's universally being given a good review. And another interesting thing that's been brought up about these UI that I guess they're going to have these action cards. Maybe cards is the wrong word for it, but basically it's like an action tracker, almost like a trophy, but different from trophies. Whereas basically the game telling you, hey, maybe this action or this achievement in the game is trending. Click here to immediately go to that part of the game and try it out for yourself. Or
Hmm.
you are X away from achieving this or X away achieving that. That
Okay.
seems like be something they're really trying to integrate in their interface this time around.
Admittedly, like that sounds like what Steam had for like a while for certain. But I feel like they stopped it, and it is a factor like on Steam when they introduced achievements. Certain ones had like actually had a progress bar because it's like destroy 30 such and such things, and like it would actually take your progress and keep track of it. But as far as I know, they haven't kept it at all. So
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the Sony does this generation with that. Without having it in my hands, I don't know how useful it is to me personally. It sounds neat, I guess, from a purely superficial sense, but like we'll see how it really goes when it's live and working and stuff like that. Otherwise, it's just a new UI. I mean, there's always going to be plus or minuses and people complaining and people who love it and everything in between. It's just like I was saying before, none of us are going to have it at launch, so paying attention to it now almost feels moot because I'm sure it'll be way different. Maybe not way different, but definitely different by the time I get my hands on it. So
yeah, because I know that they definitely made drastic changes before its current form.
I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna not buy it if it has a passable UI. It won't kill anything. Like I guess if it was terrible, it might turn people off. But like it would have to be pretty
They would
terrible.
have to go out of their way to make a bad UI.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's neat, but like actually, speaking of neat stuff, because I don't think we've talked since I saw this. Did you see that video of someone from Sony like opening up the PlayStation 5?
I saw a picture of it and I saw literally how large it.
Yeah, that thing's huge. Like I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. Like it
I've
seems way
also
too
seen
big.
somebody Photoshop it so it's like literally the size of a big TV next to
Yeah.
him. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's just gonna be the fun part.
On the inside, it's all like, but it's all a lot of what's going on the inside from the video I saw is in service of keeping everything cool because you got these exhaust
Yeah.
ports and you got these like these heat sinks. Like that's almost like half the device is like keeping things cool.
Yeah, and the reason why is because of the fact that like they couldn't solve that's the one thing that I kept hearing when it was in the development section was essentially straight up the thing is going to be running super hot. So
Yeah, so I guess they had no choice but to incorporate all this cooling techniques into it. And
yeah.
all the hands-on reviews are saying that it's both quiet and really manages its heat really well. So it's a plus for the PS5.
Admittedly, I've seen some people say like it's doing that so far. We're not sure if some like there may like one of a potential mass production because those are like demo units sent out and they're made sure to be in proper working order. But with mass production, you may get a situation like the Red Ring of Death for
Very
Sony.
fair. Yep.
So I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying there's the potential. it to
Buyer
happen.
beware. Okay. Next thing then, Crucible, this game that Amazon was working on. As of this week,
Yes.
they've kicked the bucket. Well, I mean, they're still kicking a little bit, but it's basically no. They're canceling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a bizarre case of a Kickstarter game getting somewhere and then just sort of dissipating at some point.
Now, I think if I remember correctly, this is a game that I think at one point was technically released, and then they pulled it back into beta because after release it was just so bad, and they were like, "No, we need to work on this some more."
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't go anywhere from that, obviously.
Yeah. Which I think if I understand the reports on this makes like third or fourth time Amazon's killed a game. Like they just can't seem to make a game.
I don't know what's up with that. It's not all that hard to just sort of. They could have done it like any sort of like Microsoft or Ubisoft thing of just find an indie game that seems to be getting a lot of traction, come in, purchase it, give them lots of money, and just wait out like the next year or 6 months for them to finish developing it and saying, "Look, everybody, a game from Amazon."
You're right. Like, why aren't it's Amazon? Why aren't they pulling a Microsoft and just buying out studios? Why are they putting so much effort into creating their own studio? Which sounds nice.
Actually,
but
there might be one reason.
What?
Lumberyard.
It's Lumberyard. I believe it's pretty much why they're trying to do it.
I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, even with that, I feel like you can buy an experienced studio and just say, hey, instead of using what you were using before, use this engine, but it's still an experienced studio that knows how to handle game development. I mean, Amazon's still new enough in this where they clearly don't understand, the logistics and the commitment needed to create a game.
It may just also be that they're trying way too hard, like too high of a standard. Then again, from the sounds of how Crucible was designed, it was designed poorly with the idea of let's make a game that's both MOBA, team shooter, and
yeah.
Battle Royale, all using the same map, which is sort of a big no-no when you consider each of those requires fairly dedicated map style of gameplay that you have there.
Yeah.
I think the elevator pitch is a little weird, right? Like, I mean, I guess an elevator pitch to a gamer, it's weird. I think what they were going for was an elevator pitch to an executive. Like, you see these three different types of games, they make so much money. Why don't we make one that's all three of these? And I'm sure that elevator pitch sounds pretty good.
To an executive, but to a developer, it's like, what kind of living nightmare are you trying to shove off onto us?
Well,
I mean, that being said... go ahead.
It doesn't really sound like an awful thing. The problem is the actual amount of effort you have to put into making something that's actually, good. That you can play as a MOBA, you can play as Battle Royale, you can play as a shooter, or something of a bizarre combination or amalgamation of the three. I mean, let's face it. I don't think you really play. I'm trying to remember what it's called. The one that came out like last year, 2018.
Describe.
It's the one with the characters that it was the one that did for having a resurrection feature in it. Flying around the map.
Yes. That's Oh my god, what am I forgetting?
Yeah.
Oh no. Yes,
it was supposed to be the first Fortnite killer, but it didn't.
Okay, it's the people who made Titanfall. What is that game called?
Oh,
I'm so stupid.
My mind is going to Anthem, and it's like, it's fucking not that.
No, it's not. If I had my old computer, I could look it up because I had it installed. I played it for a while, which makes this even worse. I played the game, and I don't know what you're talking about. It's by Respawn. I'm gonna just put Respawn into Google. It's gonna come up. Apex Legends.
Yes.
Apex. Yeah. That's why my mind was probably going to Anthem. Is that it's with an A, and it's like but yeah, it's Anthem. No, it's Apex, and that's still going strong as far as I know.
Yeah.
It ended up having a bit of a dip, if I remember correctly, but it's at least stable comparatively.
Yeah, it's not the Fortnite killer they wanted, but it's still done really good for itself.
Yeah.
It's a team shooter and a battle royale, but it's one of those things of like, oh, okay.
Also, kind of going back to the credit of Crucible, the game itself. From what I didn't play it myself. From what I read, it was a pretty playable game and enjoyable. Like maybe it was a little weird because of what they're trying to do, but it was supposed to be a pretty enjoyable experience. So I think it might have just been a combination of Amazon again wasn't ready to maybe commit to supporting this kind of thing as well as it was, but also maybe they just didn't market it enough. Because how many other than the association with Amazon, like we didn't really see it out there. Like people weren't streaming it. It wasn't memed. None of. I mean, memed other than that it failed. But other than that, like there was no.
Yeah, it didn't get the sort of traction that Valorant has.
Mhm. So that also might have just been my Amazon underestimating like what kind of marketing this thing needs.
I mean, I remember seeing streams of it or clips from it, and it's like, I wonder what that game is. Well,
now you don't have to have that question answered anymore. Null and void. Well, we'll see what Amazon does. Maybe they should just pull up Microsoft and buy out a company and just like, hey, make games for us. You already know what you're doing. Tell us what
first
to
of
do.
all, I'm pretty sure they probably have, but the problem is that all the ones that they have purchased haven't doing anything interesting.
Yeah.
Poor Amazon. I mean, I'm
Well-
sure they're going to hurt for the money now. Poor Amazon.
I'm just gonna laugh at that.
They're going to lose $1 billion. Woohoo!
Oh wow, that's so much. All right,
Not for Amazon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm continuing the sarcasm. For Amazon, not so much. But besides that, yeah. Questions, comments, concerns on that one? Anything else?
I
Not
mean,
really.
like, all I can see is basically like Amazon's gonna keep trying until supposedly they finally get a game that people like gamers are actually gonna like. Great, and I'm going like, it may happen. I'm not holding my breath for it, so.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in that case, before I continue on with the other things I had in mind, is there anything else you all wanted to bring up before I bulldoze us through this entire episode?
Trying to think of stuff that I've heard about.
I have an interesting rejoinder for one of your topics, but I'll wait until after you've done with that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I did have something about the PlayStation stuff that you should you might have gotten a notification about it, Eddie.
It might have had to do with the update to UI because I think there was a lot of that
No,
happened
it's
at the
not the
same time.
UI. It's not the UI.
Well, I mean, it's not the UI, but if it's what I'm thinking you're talking about, it kind of came out at the same time. But go ahead.
Essentially, the factor that PlayStation is updating the PlayStation Plus service,
Mm-hmm.
as well as various access to services to the PlayStation Network account. One of which is the factor that starting sometime late October, you will only be able to access through either the PlayStation app on your phone or through the website, the PS4 online library. You will no longer be able to access any of the PST, you will not be able to access.
Yep, that's exactly what I was referring to. Yep.
Yeah, but that also coincided with a update about certain aspects about the PlayStation Party stuff, including something that I've already seen like several like tinfoil hat times about as well.
Ooh, go on.
Basically, this kind of coincides with probably the announcement of like how they were making things easier to pop in and out of like PlayStation Party's voice stuff on PlayStation Network for PS5. But there was a footnote that basically sounded like they could basically monitor any voice transactions on PlayStation Network. So people were making memes about the whole aspect that, Big Brother Sony is now listening in addition to your FBI agent.
Wait, I thought as part of all these announcements, they like specifically said they weren't going to be listening.
I think they had to make a comment about that
Yeah.
because of the natural implicator stuff.
Yeah. So, but no, it was
which I don't know would feed into those theories. Like, I don't think that immediately means that we should trust it
I
at
don't
face
know.
value. But
Various aspects of nonsense long and selling your soul NDA end user license agreement that we have
Exactly.
to sign.
yeah,
You know, first world problems, I guess.
Like they might come back 2 years from now and go like, oh no, like we said, we didn't record you, but what we did is that we picked up your voice vibrations through the controller's own vibrations and then transcribed what you said through that. So we technically didn't record you, or some bullshit. I
Yeah.
don't know. On one hand, I don't lose sleep over worrying about this kind of stuff too much. But on the other hand, I also wouldn't put it past Sony from doing something, or any company like that to do something maybe not honest.
Mhm.
Gotta sleep with one eye open. All right, anything else on that, David?
Just the fact that like a lot of people are already being bitchy and moany, going like the whole aspect of not being able to access, at least through the web site for PlayStation Store, the PS3, PSP, and PS Vita
Mhm.
stores. People are bitching and moaning like they can understand the app, because it's more meant to be like for the modern stuff since it doesn't interact with. But I have seen people bitching and moaning about the factor that not being able to access through the website, like being able to buy PS3 game or PSP or Vita games. And all I can say is like I saw this coming because they're trying to cut down on network access for the PlayStation 5 launch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also kind of foreshadowing the factor that this is leading into probably a phasing out of those stores.
Yep.
So if you want to buy something for PS3 or Vita, you better have a way of connecting the devices to a network. And
Do it now.
well, you can still get the stores through the actual device. Just if you want to do it through the website, you're going to have to do it now versus going onto the store and do it from there. But yeah, this kind of leads the whole aspect that there are some PlayStation 3 games that are online only that never got brought over to the PS4. And people are being, oh no, my game.
Well, there's a certain amount of that. I mean, what happens when one of your digital libraries doesn't transfer over to your new digital library, essentially?
Yeah. And so some people are basically just freaking out. I'm just going to state that it's like, this is expected. I'm not going to, it's like, I'm going to double check certain aspects. Like, are there some games I really want to pick up on, even though I haven't touched mine in 4 years?
Yeah.
Because like I'm pretty sure you, Eddie, you've packed yours up or you've sent it out to somebody in your family.
I almost, because I know exactly where it is, and I had always planned to give it to one of my cousins who liked playing DDR, and I figured, oh well, I'll just give her this machine that plays DDR, and buy her a mat, and boom, Christmas present. And I just haven't pulled the trigger on that yet.
Well, in this case, it's one of those situations where it's like some people out there are probably going to be trying to buy out the entire PS3 library online.
There's always one. There's always one.
And admittedly, like Sony says, you'll still have access to all your purchases. I'm just sitting there waiting for essentially when Sony goes like, oh hey, we're importing the entire library over to the PS5. I'm like, that sounds really vicious, but we know that's not going to happen because that is straight up backwards compatibility, and so far the PS5 is only backwards compatible with 4, and even then some people are still saying it's still going to be a limited backwards compatibility.
It's going to be limited hardware, it's going to be limited in general, and then there's going to be whatever comes through that PS Plus collection, where they're calling it. But I guess Sony at this point is intent on people only want the modern stuff. We're only going to cater to the modern stuff, and then we like it. Which we'll see how that contrasts. I think this is going to be the generation we really see the contrast in that, because Sony's like obviously doing what they're doing, but then Microsoft is going full throttle on, you want that, you got it. And so we'll see if that makes a difference. If it doesn't make a difference for Microsoft, then maybe Sony is right to not make a big deal of it.
Yeah, we'll find out. It's just,
yeah.
I am one of those people that's like, I kind of like having multiple copies because sooner or later they're going to have to shut down those storefronts, and that's going to be when you won't be able to access those games anymore or any update.
Yeah, that actually is a good question. Obviously, there's the thing of how many other things you can't access.
Yeah, this generation is really going to define a lot of those conversations, or at least tell us where they're in which direction. Okay, MPX, question for you.
Yeah.
Which one of my last two topics did you have a relation?
Your animated one.
Ooh, about Batman?
Yep.
Okay, then we'll do that one, because I think maybe I'll just end up saving the Genshin Impact talk for another time, depending on how long this goes. But last night, here, before I even get that, I'll mention that I've also started watching Promised Neverland, and I'm about 4 or 5 episodes into it.
Okay.
Just FYI. Okay, but last night I saw Killing Joke, which is a movie I've been meaning to see for a long time. It's 3 years old, and they animated it 3 years ago. It was a big deal because it was like Mark Hamill voicing Joker again, and then Kevin Conroy's Batman, and all that goody voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
But also really notable was just like, I think this movie was R-rated, and it was like really, really intense. So was the comic book it's based off of. Overall, I really liked the movie. It was well done. Job well done. But I do remember at the time there was a lot of complaints, or maybe not complaints, criticism, or you want to call them. Let's say criticism on like what was going on in the beginning of the movie, particularly between like Batman and Batgirl. And,
this or that.
Yeah, and for me, as someone who hadn't watched it was all hearsay. So I was going to watch it and see what ended up happening. But I think after having watched the movie, I kind of get the criticism because
Mhm.
basically my favorite part of everything I liked about this movie happened after all of that happened, and I don't. And then once I start chewing on what happened towards the second half of the movie, it made me wonder why did we have that first part of the movie? Which other than for padding, which it might have been just for that, it might have just been for padding, but
Well, I can't really say much about that because I haven't read the original Killing Joke storyline, so I don't know if it's following it 100% or they're making bizarre choices on like what needs to be happening for drama, purely drama's sake.
and that's what that
Like,
felt like because I think from what I know about the Killing Joke because I haven't read it either, but it's referenced a lot, and you read Wikipedia pages about it. The part that the first 20 minutes of the movie don't happen in the Killing Joke. That was all unique to the movie as far as I know, or pulled from somewhere else. I actually don't know that for sure. It's one of those two.
yeah, there's always the possibility that they put in some other comic book or
Mm-hmm.
character specific thing from some other buddy to run or something.
But in the end, like I guess thinking about what they intended for that, I think they wanted. Well, I guess I was not worried about spoiling a 3-year-old movie, so spoiler alert. So in the Killing Joke, the Joker gets out of Arkham like per usual, and I guess this time he decides, you know what I'm going to do? I bet. I think literally his thesis is that everyone is one bad day away from turning into him.
Yeah.
So to prove that, he goes, "Hey, I bet I can turn Jim Gordon into me." So he basically comes up with like the sickest way he can think of to mess with Jim Gordon, which is basically
Mhm.
a shoot and paralyze his daughter. Great straight gut shot, paralyze. Then like takes all of sorts of not great pictures and like plaster it all over Gordon's
Gotham.
cell. No, no, just well in the movie it's just for Gordon. All while like Gordon's being like whipped and like yelled at and like all kinds of like army
Degrading
torture.
torture. Yeah.
Yeah, basically trying to recreate for him a bad day so that Jordan goes insane. And in the end, Gordon doesn't. And Gordon's able to retain his humanity and like basically tells Batman, "Go get him, but don't like do anything bad. Just bring him in like usual." So Joker
Mhm.
loses, and that's basically the well, I mean, and it pretty much ends up, which was the other interesting part of this whole thing, because Batman is trying to figure out, hey, we've done this like a million times. One day, this is going to end up either you killing me or me killing. Is there any way we can circumvent that fate? And there's like a little like a brief moment where I think Joker even really considers it, where he's like, you know what, maybe he's right, but then he goes, nah, typical Joker. So that was the whole thought experiment. Like there's
Yeah.
some other stuff that really like fleshes that out and makes it worthwhile. There's also a Joker backstory that I didn't care for because I think Joker's better without a backstory. But I know that's what they
Yeah.
did in the Killing Joke comic as well, so that wasn't like original. But I have to
Mhm.
admit, I purposely fast forward through all that because I was like, I don't, I'm not here for that, and it didn't do anything for me other than I guess flesh out his one bad day thesis. Which again, I don't think he could have said that and didn't need the backstory. But anyway, so all that part of the movie really worked for me. It was this whole thing with Batman and Batgirl that just didn't work. That looked
Mhm.
forced. I think they were obviously attempting to increase the drama for when Harper gets hit, and like sure, but it was not necessary, and it was like a little grotesque and even a little weird because like I don't know if you all know what happens in the beginning of this movie, but it was one of the bigger deals.
Yeah,
But
the
like
nonsensical relationship between Batman and Barbara. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Which for me didn't make sense to either of the characters. I can't see Batgirl doing that, and I can't see Batman letting it happen. But in the movie universe, it does. And again, it seems like it was put there to increase the drama for when everything happened.
I think it's just something that happens whenever any animation studio gets the ability to essentially do carte blanche, mature animation. They want to push the boundaries, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes they just get out something that maybe they shouldn't have put onto screen simply because it really doesn't add anything to the story.
About the only thing I think it adds is this like this subplot of her whole first 20 minutes is basically Batman going like I guess Batgirl is still well obviously I guess compared to Batman still relatively new to the whole thing, and his whole thing is like you have to be careful because otherwise this thing will literally drive you insane. This whole
Mhm.
like Batman stuff will drive you insane. And I guess that eventually happens where like she's on the brink. She just barely pulls back. She goes, "Oh crap! I cannot do that again because I don't think I can come back next." And that's one of the lessons that are brought up on that. So I guess maybe in that regard it was good for that, but not really. Again, it's still the character choices. But anyway, that was my take on the Killing Joke.
Okay. Well, my comment per se doesn't have to the Killing Joke per se. it has to deal with the fact that Cartoon Network seems pruning some of its cartoons that were in development.
Oh, I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, it feels like the days of cartoon pay money for animators to make a cartoon
Mm-hmm.
to have their one shot at like, hey, make a 7-minute short and we'll go from there. Doesn't seem to be happening anymore.
Which is a shame.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really
that's
is.
not to say that they haven't done good stuff in like the last decade. I think there's some great stuff that's come out the last decade.
Yeah.
But it's like, why wouldn't they keep doing that? They've been doing that for 30 years and it's been great. Why? Do you know anything specific about that? Why they're changing course?
I think it has to do with just simply money. They don't have enough money to essentially keep financing high, things like that. It's also a matter of contracts and things like that. I don't know per se exactly why, but the reason why this has to deal with Batman the Killing Joke is that, okay, the reason why this was brought up to me is because supposedly well-known artists who had a actually successful show, I think it was called OK Go,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Or no, OK KO.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Sorry, I never watched the show, so I don't know how good it is, how bad,
I've heard good things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go on that, but they had a new show that was in development that had going through basic stages of pre-planning. They had voice actors, they had probably conceptual shorts going on. Maybe they've gotten to the point of already having a couple episodes completely done and ready to go for the season.
Uh-huh.
But from the sounds of it, Cartoon Network ended up pulling the plug and just simply said, yeah, unfortunately, it's nothing you've done. It's just that we don't have the money for it. So it's a sort of shitty thing to have.
Is that just really the market we're doing? Because I feel like Cartoon Network, even in these current times of streaming and stuff like that, has been doing really well, but maybe that's not the case.
It may also be a matter of contracts because Cartoon Network also greenlit a new cartoon to go with HBO Max, which is, guess what? A new Batman spinoff.
Is it DC Universe related?
No.
I mean, and maybe that's part of it too. Maybe this.
Do you
is
want to
like,
know what the cartoon is about?
besides Batman?
It's about the Batmobile.
Ooh, what
As
do
a
you mean?
Cars-like Batmobile fighting crime.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to be honest. On the surface, that sounds kind of adorable.
It could be fine, but
I can
it's
see it reminds me of Muppet Babies. Like obviously this really kiddish thing that is made with a lot of something satirical and parody in the background. It sounds like that's what would be happening in that kind of cartoon. I have to imagine. That's all speculation, of course, but that's what I imagine. Like, because otherwise, why would you do that? Because it sounds ridiculous otherwise.
Yeah, but, the thing is that it's sort of sad that it gets the green light for probably something that happens to be, pre-made concept versus original anime.
Yeah, that is a
on
shame.
just simply the surface level.
Which again, like Cartoon Network's been nailing that stuff even in this last decade. Odd that somehow they would lose faith in their own. I mean, other than I guess money, like you said, might be the factor. They lose faith in their own and what they've started. Not to mention, what they do in Adult Swim. Which man, I hope it doesn't come for that. But I guess with the Venture Brothers thing's been happening. Like we haven't talked about that. I don't think anyone was super into Venture Brothers, but that's been a big deal this last few months.
Yeah, that was also another thing. I mean, they were also in the pre-planning stages of the final season, and they were going to make it this time the final season. I mean, it's been going on for almost a decade, 2 decades, close to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very few cartoons get to be able to say that they've lasted that long. So, but it's still unfortunate they didn't get, to stick the landing and actually end, because I've heard that they had a lot of, leftover plans, plots going into the last season finale. So,
see, I thought they were going to get one more season. I didn't realize they were canceled cold turkey.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
That's a shame. I mean, there is part of me that hopes that maybe the fan reaction might convince them to go the other way. It wouldn't be the first time something like that's happened, but who knows? Again,
yeah.
Between that and what you're saying now, maybe there's something going on in that whole branch of company. I guess the whole company might be going.
It might be a matter of restructuring. I mean, that's also happening with some other companies. But yeah, that's all I pretty much have to say. It's like, unfortunate that the one, highlight of the cartoon, which was always their willingness to start up new cartoons and creators and simply say, here you go. I mean, let's face it, Adventure Time wouldn't have happened without cartoon.
Exactly.
I mean, the Adventure Time.
Actually, technically, Family Guy wouldn't have happened without cartoon.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Family Guy started as a cartoon. Kind of like the characters and concepts you can clearly see in an early cartoon that I remember fun.
Weird.
I will YouTube about that, and I will give it to you guys later, and you'll see.
Okay.
like later on, I'm actually a little bit ashamed that I didn't see the connection up front, but after I learned, I was like, oh yeah, duh. Okay, we need to cut the podcast short a little bit because I need to disappear for about 10-15 minutes before we start the stream. So any last minute things?
Not really. I mean, I don't have anything else in particular in terms of pop culture or nerd news, other such.
Okay, and if we can think of something, we'll bring it up next week, including Genshin Impact. We'll talk Genshin Impact. Okay, everybody, podcasts come out every week. Streams on Fridays and Saturdays. Watch them, like them, follow, all that stuff.
Do stuff.
And with that, we'll see you all next. Bye.
This has been a presentation of Front Row Geeks. Adios.